Okay, so we've handled the IK controls, which is great. IK is really simple in some respects. And now we want to take a look at FK, which is the default for joints and is rotate only. So essentially, right now, I've handled all four of the limbs. So we're really just looking at the spine and maybe the clavicles. I'm going to leave the root joint alone for now because the root joint is the one place where I do want to have a joint translate because that's going to move the rest of the skeleton around. So if, God help me, I ever want to take the flour sack and have it stand up, it's going to look really creepy, but you can totally do it. So the root control is going to translate and rotate, and that one's going to be different, which means that we're going to have to make a third type of control curve. It should be interesting. But I know that these spine controls are going to be rotate only, so that should be pretty simple. Now, the thing that makes FK controls a little bit harder to make is that by default, I don't actually know how to match the joint orient. So I'm going to show you a little trick that you might love and you might really, really hate. So our friends the constraints. Our friends the constraints will allow one object to control another object. We know that. And you'll remember I talked a little bit about maintain offset and how you can turn it on or off. So with the point constraint, it defaults to being off, and it assumes that your objects are already aligned. If they're not aligned, having maintain offset turned off will snap them together. So if I select this lower spine joint, and then I'm going to use my outliner here, I'm going to hold down my control or command key and select the FK control group, the parent constraint translates and rotates. I've got maintain offset unchecked, and what that's going to do is it is going to, you're going to love this, it is going to snap the group node, not the control curve, the group node into both location and orientation for that joint. So I like using parent constraints to snap objects together. I do that sometimes as a modeler when I want to align things, but I do it mostly as a rigger when I know that I've got a specific control that needs to be in the same orientation as a joint. I use the constraint solely to align things. Once I've used it, I can delete it. It's gone, it was just there to line things up. So now I know that this curve is perfectly aligned to this joint, which is great. The only problem is that it's really hard to see. So I know that with the IK controls, I did a lot of moving and rotating to the group node. With the FK controls, I'm going to do the opposite. I know that my group node is perfectly aligned. I am not going to mess with that group node anymore. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to take the curve and I'm going to rotate it so that it looks like it's visually aligned with the joint. I'm going to try to get that pretty close. Might help to use my side view, because in the side view I can see what the joint is. Right there. Perfect. Having done that, I am going to run a command in the Modify menu called Freeze Transformations, which is not supposed to do that. What it's supposed to do, let's see what I've done wrong here. What it's supposed to do is it's supposed to zero this out. Yes, just like that. So that the curve now believes that it is once again located at the origin even though I moved it. So the group node still has the joint's orient information. It's the curve that I rotated and is now set to 0. It's still really hard to see the curve, so I'm just going to scale it up a little bit, and then I will freeze transformations again. And now this curve is perfect to turn into a control. So I'm going to take this. This was my first FK control. I'm going to Control D to duplicate it. And again, I am going to select the joint first, then Control or Command select the group node in my outliner, and I am going to make a parent constraint with maintain offset turned off. That should pop right into place, and I can delete that parent constraint. And let's Control D to duplicate this one more time. This will be for the shoulders. So select the joint first, the group node second, and hit apply. Once you're in place, you can delete that parent constraint. Let's just go through one more time, check this out, make sure that all of these curves are the right size and shape. They should be. I'm just going to scale them a little bit, and then I am going to freeze their transformations, and they should all be just fine. Okay, looks good. So these three are my spine controls. This one is the shoulders control. This one is the upper spine control. And then this one is the lower spine control. Let me take a second to name their group nodes. Lower spine group, upper spine group, and shoulders group. And that should be plenty for one module, because I know that it's going to feel a little awkward at first. You are using your parent constraint with maintain offset turned off to snap the group node to the joint. And once you've got that snapped, you're deleting the parent constraint. Then you can adjust not the group node, but the curve. And when you're done with the curve, you're going to freeze its transformations. Rinse and repeat all the way up the spine. Watch this video as many times as you need. This is the worst part, and you can do it. When you're ready, I will join you in the next lesson to start putting these controls together and having them control the joints.